Won't you spare me over till another year? Now what is this that I can't see? These ice cold hands taking hold of me. Now this is death, none can excel. I hold the keys for heaven or hell. Oh, death. Whoa, death. Won't you spare me over till another year? You bridle my tongue so I can't talk. You stiffen my limbs so I can't walk. You blinded my eyes so I can't see. This very hour come and go with me. Whoa, death. Whoa, death. Won't you spare me over till another year? Won't you spare me over till another year? Won't you spare me over till another year? It's Oh Death. It's a traditional American folk song as popularized by Ralph Stanley. My name is Zach Henson. I have a few reasons for doing this vlog. The first one is there's this guy named D. Dixon White who's going around on the internet and saying that he's a redneck and that he has anti-racist ideas, which is just very traditional anti-racism. And you know, the reality of it is that this guy is an actor and that his redneck is actually a character. And I don't particularly have a problem with him doing this. I mean, if you want to be a redneck, come join the club. But I did want to sort of answer this with the opinion of a real redneck and an opinion about anti-racism from somebody who has actually lived the experiences of a redneck or a hillbilly. And I don't use those in any pejorative way. I use them simply as a way to describe my culture and my lived experience. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the banjo, which is one of my favorite instruments, if not my favorite instrument. My uncle is teaching me how to play it. It's a really beautiful instrument that has come to be associated with Appalachian and redneck culture. So I have my banjo here. This is my little $250 Gretsch banjo. So this is what I'm learning to play on. And you know, it's interesting that the banjo has come to be associated with redneck or hillbilly culture, which by redneck and hillbilly I mean white working class Southerner. But the reality is that the banjo has its origins in Africa. When slaves were captured and brought to the United States, they built banjos which resembled African stringed instruments. Their banjos look very different from this. They were a gourd. The gourd had the top cut off of it, and some sort of animal skin stretched over the top. It was strung and it had a neck, but the neck didn't have any frets. And until about the 1830s, banjos were almost exclusively played by African slaves. In the 1830s, a guy named Joel Sweeney, who is somebody described him as the Elvis Presley of the 1830s. He created what we now know as the modern banjo, which he, instead of using a gourd, he built a wooden head, and he put an animal skin on that, and he put a fretted neck. So this banjo is a combination of African and European cultures, and I think that in some ways is very beautiful, but I think we have to recognize that this banjo does not exist without slavery. And I'm not saying that to justify slavery in any way, shape, or form. I think that slavery was the most evil and vile and mad institution in the history of humanity. I think it's the worst things that humans ever did to other humans. But what I am saying is that the banjo, which is beautiful, and Southern culture, which is beautiful, and everything in Southern culture, right below the surface is madness. Absolute and utter madness because of our history of slavery and lynching and Jim Crow and so on. So, and I know a little bit about, or actually, I know a lot about madness personally because I am mad. I have bipolar disorder, and I'm lucky to live in a time where medicines can help me to more or less function on a daily basis. But in dealing with my madness, I have to face it straight on and head on, and I have to know what it is and realize what it is, and I have to wake up every day and say, today I'm going to live and I'm going to heal. And the problem with the madness in Southern culture is that us rednecks and hillbillies do not handle that madness well, and it makes us struggle to survive. Now, let me say one thing as a caveat: there is racism in every place in the United States. There's racism in San Francisco, there's racism in New York, there's racism in Seattle, Detroit, everywhere in the United States, and really everywhere in the world there is racism. And there's two important differences about Southern culture and Southern heritage that make racism different. The first is that slavery, Jim Crow, and most of the lynching happened in the South, so we have to deal with it in a way that not other people don't do. The other is that although there's racism in all other places in the United States, the South is the only place defined by racism. And we have yet to come up with a good answer to our madness. We've failed to come up with a coping strategy. We say things like slavery wasn't that bad, or white racism doesn't exist, or we find ways to try to explain our history away instead of facing it head on. So, and if we don't face it head on, we will not survive. And with that, I'm going to end this vlog for this week. I thank you for listening. I'm going to talk more about survival next week and why it is necessary for us to face our madness of racism. Why is it necessary to face our madness of racism in a way that's productive and constructive? And next week, I will talk some more about how that is important to our survival. Thanks a lot. Zach Henson, McCalla, Alabama, October 2015.